The rain had tapered off hours ago, but the city still glistened wet, neon puddles pooling beneath the buzz of streetlights and holograms projecting advertisements into the thick night air. I stood in the shadows of an alleyway, fingers twitching as I adjusted the interface port embedded in my wrist. The soft glow of my cybernetic eyes synced with the flickering signs overhead, blues, pinks, and acidic greens bleeding into one another like a living watercolor of the city's soul. This was my domain now, the neon veins pulsing beneath the concrete and steel. I crouched low, pulling a translucent data jack from a hidden panel beneath a rusted conduit. This was the lifeline of the Memory Syndicate's network, a backdoor they never expected someone like me to find. My fingers brushed the cold metal as I connected the jack to my neural implant. A faint hum surged through my spine, an electric whisper of data flowing directly into my brain. The city's heartbeat became mine. The digital world exploded into view behind my eyelids, a sprawling labyrinth of glowing grids, shifting firewalls, and encrypted pathways glowing with an eerie, pulsating light. My cybernetic eyes flickered, scanning streams of code cascading like waterfalls of light. Here, in this virtual maze, memories were currency, bought and sold as easily as breath. And somewhere in this tangled web were the fragments of him, my brother. Echo's voice crackled softly in my ear, a familiar anchor in the disorienting flood of data. "Watch your six, Rin. These bastards don't just encrypt. They hunt," I nodded, though he couldn't see it. The mercenary hackers were ghosts in this space, aggressive, relentless, their avatars sharp-edged and flickering with static. They moved like predators, launching cyberattacks that jolted my neural implants, sending sharp stabs of pain that blurred the edges of my vision. My grip on the interface tightened, and my mind dove deeper, searching for a vulnerability. They came at me fast, a wave of digital fire and ice, scrambling my sensory input and distorting my perception. My breathing grew shallow as I ducked and weaved through the barrage, every jolt a reminder that these fights weren't just virtual. They left marks on the mind and flesh alike. "Got a backdoor here," Echo murmured, his voice a steady pulse in the chaos. "But you've got to move now." I exploited the hidden gateway, a narrow slipstream of corrupted code that bypassed the main firewall. The neon grids shifted as I slipped through, heart pounding in synchronization with the city's distant hum. Outside, the rain had started again, droplets tapping against the cracked glass of a nearby skyscraper like a metronome. Sweat beaded at my temple. I blinked rapidly to reset my vision, the city's neon glow bleeding through my eyelids like a ghostly tattoo. The data I'd accessed was raw and fragmented, pieces of plans, encrypted manifests, and encrypted files hinting at the scale of Dr. Voss's operation. But it was enough to know I'd struck a nerve. "Status?" Echo's voice was sharp, laced with tension, inside and pulling data, "but they'll be onto me in seconds." I disconnected, the neural jack snapping free with a soft pop. Pain radiated through my arm where the interface had latched on, but the rush of adrenaline numbed the ache. I slid into the shadows, heart still racing, knowing this was only the beginning. If I wanted to find him, to reclaim those stolen memories, I'd have to dive deeper into this neon-lit abyss. And the Syndicate wouldn't make it easy. The city's pulse hammered in my ears, a relentless beat beneath the flickering neon shadows. Somewhere out there, in the tangled web of stolen consciousness, my brother waited, and I was coming for him. But as the neon veins of the city glowed brighter against the night, I couldn't shake the feeling that with every secret I uncovered, I was losing a piece of myself. The line between hunter and hunted blurred, and in this digital jungle, identity was the most fragile thing of all. The hunt was on, and there was no turning back. The city's neon glow barely penetrated the narrow stairwell leading down to Myra's clinic, a hidden sanctuary beneath the crumbling facades of the old industrial district. The hum of distant hovercars and the faint drip of leaking pipes above contrasted sharply with the quiet urgency that pressed against the thick steel door as I pushed it open. Inside, the air was cooler, tainted with the sterile scent of antiseptic and the low buzz of neural repair machines. Flickering hollow interfaces blinked softly against the shadowed walls, casting faint pools of light on faces both worn and hopeful. Myra herself sat behind a cluttered console, her soft features partially obscured by a loose hood that muted the harsh neon outside. She looked up as I entered, her eyes steady but kind. "You must be Rin," she said, voice calm, almost maternal. "Echo said you'd come." I nodded, the weight of exhaustion pressing down harder now that I was here. "I need your help." Her clinic was a patchwork of salvaged tech and makeshift comfort. Patients reclined in worn chairs, some hooked to intricate neural interfaces, their expressions a mix of pain and relief. Myra moved among them with practiced ease, her hands gentle as she adjusted implants or administered neural balms designed to soothe scrambled synapses. One young woman caught my attention, a trembling figure with pale skin and flickering ocular implants that sputtered erratically. Myra knelt beside her, whispering soothing words as she delicately patched a neural socket. The woman's breathing slowed, eyes flickering open with a fragile clarity. "Memory theft leaves wounds you can't see," Myra explained quietly when I joined her. "The damage isn't just in data, it's in the soul. Rebuilding isn't just about tech, it's trust, patience, and hope." I listened, the truth of her words slicing through my guarded exterior. For so long, I'd buried my emotions beneath layers of code and cold calculation. But here, surrounded by those fighting to reclaim fragments of themselves, the stakes felt painfully real. We turned to the memory fragments I'd stolen during the last raid. As Myra projected the data streams into the hollow display between us, I saw the jagged edges and missing segments, like torn pages from a book rewritten by someone else. "Some parts have been overwritten, erased deliberately," she murmured, tracing the gaps with a finger. "It's not just theft, it's obliteration." The weight of it hit me harder than any firewall breach. My brother's consciousness wasn't just scattered, it was mutilated. The man I remembered, the brother I loved, was slipping away into digital oblivion. Myra's own story emerged in fragments as the evening wore on. She spoke of a raid, her clinic attacked, her own memories tampered with. The soft glow of neon filtering through cracks in the walls cast long shadows as she revealed scars beneath her skin, both physical and mental. "That's why I fight," she said simply, "because there's still something worth saving." Our conversation stretched into the night, weaving threads of pain and resilience. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to hope, not just for my brother, but for a future where stolen memories could be healed rather than exploited. But as the clinic's lights flickered with a sudden power surge, the fragile calm shattered. The shadows deepened, reminding me that beneath this fragile light lay darker forces still watching, still hunting. I left Myra's sanctuary with a new resolve burning beneath my skin. The path ahead was uncertain and fraught with danger, but now, armed with compassion and clarity, I was ready to fight, not just for my brother's memories, but for the fractured souls trapped in this neon-lit nightmare. The battle for identity was far from over, but in this dimly lit clinic, amidst the hum of healing machines, I glimpsed a spark of something worth believing in. And I would carry that light into the darkness, no matter the cost. The city's neon shadows awaited, and so did my next move. The neon haze of the city's underbelly wrapped around us like a suffocating shroud, colors bleeding from every flickering sign and hollow advertisement. I could almost taste the electric tang in the humid air, a mixture of ozone and synthetic sweat. The backroom was barely more than a cage of rusted metal and cracked plexiglass, lit only by the erratic pulse of neon from outside and the faint glow of Echo's digital visor. "You've been hiding something," I said, voice low, cautious, yet edged with accusation. My fingers hovered over the holographic interface projecting fragmented data streams, but my attention was fixed on Echo. The neon light caught the angles of his face, throwing his features into stark relief. The sharp line of his jaw, the tightness around his eyes, the quick dart of his gaze beneath that ever-present visor. He shifted uneasily, the visor lifting slowly to reveal eyes that had seen too much, colored by fatigue and regret. "I had no choice," he said, voice rough but steady. "The syndicate, I was in too deep." Betrayal wasn't the plan, but survival was the only option. A bitter laugh escaped me. Survival? You sold us out. You sold me out. Echo met my gaze without flinching, despite the weight of my words. Not everything was what it seemed. I was trapped, and I've been paying for it ever since. I've been working to undermine them from the inside. The room seemed to shrink as the tension thickened, a suffocating presence hanging between us like the neon shadows that painted fractured patterns across the cracked walls. Memories of past deceptions flickered unbidden, data breaches that had almost cost me everything, the sting of broken trust. "Why should I believe you now?" I asked, voice barely above a whisper. Before he could answer, a sudden alarm blared through the room, a shrill digital scream that ripped through the stillness. Echo's eyes snapped to the interface, fingers flying across the holographic keys with practiced urgency. "They found us," he muttered. "The Syndicate's security bots are closing in. We need to move now." Adrenaline surged through me as I joined him, hacking into the building's security protocols, jamming feeds, and erasing our digital footprints. The neon outside blurred past the cracked window as we prepared to slip back into the city's underbelly. "You're risking everything," I said between breaths, heart pounding in sync with the pulsing lights. "Because this is bigger than either of us," Echo replied. "If we don't stop them, no one's memories will be safe, not even yours." In that moment, amid the chaos and flickering neon, something shifted between us. The brittle walls of mistrust cracked, and a fragile thread of understanding wove itself into the fabric of our alliance. But beneath the surface, I knew the shadows of betrayal lingered, threatening to unravel us at any misstep. As we disappeared into the neon-lit maze, I couldn't shake the question gnawing at me. Could I truly trust Echo, or was I merely chasing ghosts in the data stream? The city's pulse beat around us, electric and relentless, as my search for truth twisted deeper into the labyrinth of stolen memories and fractured identities. The stakes had never been higher, and the line between ally and enemy blurred with every flicker of the neon shadows. I tightened my grip on the data shard in my hand, the fragmented memories of my brother, scattered like shards of glass in the dark. With Echo by my side, betrayal and loyalty danced a dangerous dance, and the next move could change everything. The hunt was far from over. The neon haze of the city outside the safe house was nothing compared to the electric tension inside. Screens flickered with streams of data, their soft blue light casting sharp shadows across Rin's angular face. Echo sat beside her, fingers poised above a sleek hollow keyboard, neon-dyed hair catching the light in random flashes as if mirroring the chaotic code before them. "Firewalls holding steady," Echo muttered, eyes scanning the cascading lines of code. "But we're close, just a few more layers." Rin's jaw tightened. Every moment spent here was riskier than the last. Corporate security forces were no joke, especially when guarding secrets like these. She flexed her cybernetic fingers, feeling the familiar hum of her implants syncing with the data streams. "Ready when you are." The plan had been simple on paper, but deadly in execution. Infiltrate Dr. Kale Voss's high-security server, extract the encrypted files detailing his memory commodification project, and get out before alarms could trigger a lockdown. The stakes were beyond personal. This was a strike against the heart of the memory trade. Echo's fingers danced over the holokeys, bypassing layers of security with practiced ease. "Bypass protocol activated," she whispered. "We're in the outer shell." Suddenly, a cascade of red warnings flooded the interface. "Intrusion detected," a synthetic voice echoed, cold and unyielding. "Shit," Rin breathed. "Countermeasures? Yeah, and they're nasty. Brace yourself." An alarm blared through their comms as digital traps sprung. Echo's visor glowed brighter, scanning for vulnerabilities. "Hold on." Rin's implants flared, syncing with her neural interface to speed up her reactions. She navigated the code labyrinth, her mind a razor cutting through the digital thicket. The room felt smaller now, the pressure mounting as security protocols converged around them. "Almost there," Echo said, sweat beading at her temple. "Decrypting now." For a breathless moment, the data stream stabilized, revealing encrypted files labeled with the cold precision of corporate control. Project Mnemosyne, Consciousness Commodification Phase II, Subject Data Archives. Rin's heart pounded. This was it, the proof they needed. Got it, Echo said, initiating the download. We need to move. Just then, the safe house's door hissed open remotely. Corporate security drones were inbound, their sensors sweeping the perimeter. Extraction Plan B, Rin ordered, grabbing a portable data drive. We split meat at the fallback point. They bolted, the city's neon-lit alleyways swallowing them into its chaotic embrace. The stolen data was more than a trophy. It was a weapon that could unravel the sinister web Dr. Voss had woven. Later, back in the dim confines of their hideout, Rin and Echo pored over the files. The scope of the operation was staggering. Plans to mass-produce memory commodities, erase individual pain by commodifying consciousness itself, and a chilling vision of humanity's evolution dictated by corporate greed. Rin's voice was barely a whisper. This changes everything. Echo nodded, the usual cynicism replaced by a rare glimmer of hope. We just made the fight personal, but beneath the hope lay the heavy truth. Their discovery would not go unchallenged. Dr. Voss would retaliate, and the fragile threads holding their identities together were about to be tested like never before. As the neon shadows flickered outside their window, Rin felt the weight of the coming storm. The data heist was only the beginning. The warehouse loomed ahead like a beast-breathing neon fire. I felt the familiar tingle of my cybernetic eye adjusting to the dimness, neon strips pulsating erratically along the high, graffiti-stained walls. The air was thick with the metallic scent of circuitry and the low hum of neural rigs syncing with the crowd's collective consciousness. I slipped inside, blending into the throng of masked bidders, their faces obscured, but their eyes glowing faintly beneath virtual reality visors. This was the memory auction, a grotesque carnival where stolen fragments of lives were sold like cheap souvenirs. My brother's memories were here, somewhere among the shimmering digital packages displayed like trophies. The thought tightened my chest, but I pushed it down. Focus. Tess sat atop the raised platform, a queen reigning over this twisted court. Her sleek black attire caught the neon light, digital tattoos flickering along her arms like living circuits. Her eyes, cold and calculating, scanned the room constantly, absorbing every whispered bet, every flicker of hesitation. When she spoke, her voice was modulated to a near-hypnotic smoothness, slicing through the murmurs with precise clarity. "Next up," Tess announced, her tone both commanding and taunting, a rare set from the infamous Rin's missing brother, memories so vivid, they'll make your skin crawl and your heart ache. Bid wisely. A ripple went through the crowd. I fixed my gaze on the holographic package floating before her, the label unmistakable. My breath hitched as images of my brother flickered in the projection. Moments of laughter, fleeting glances, the ghost of a smile. Someone out there was profiting from his past, his very being. I moved carefully, weaving between the bidders, my cybernetic eye discreetly scanning for gaps in the auction's security net. The drones overhead hummed low, their sensors sweeping the crowd for anomalies. The scent of sweat and adrenaline mingled, amplifying the electric tension in the air. Near the auction's periphery, I found a dark alcove with a data port. Plugging in, I initiated a covert extraction, fingers flying over the interface as encrypted streams poured into my rig. Every second felt like a lifetime. Then, the shrill blare of an alarm shattered the facade of control. Tess's gaze snapped toward me, her smile morphing into a snarl. "Intruder," she hissed, voice laced with venom. Security drones swarmed, their lights slicing through the smoky haze. I bolted, heart pounding as neon flashes stuttered overhead. The crowd parted like a tide, their VR visors reflecting panic and confusion. Behind me, Tess's voice echoed, a dark promise laced with fury. "You think you can steal from me and walk away?" The alleyways welcomed me back into their chaotic embrace, neon signs flickering erratically as I darted through the labyrinthine streets. I clutched the partial memory fragments I'd managed to grab, incomplete, but enough to keep the hunt alive. Breath ragged, muscles burning, I paused beneath a flickering sign. The city's neon shadows seemed less like sanctuary now, more like the jaws of a beast waiting to snap shut. But I wouldn't stop. Not yet. Not until I'd reclaimed every shard of him, and maybe, just maybe, reclaimed a part of myself in the process. The auction was a trap, but it had also shown me the depth of the syndicate's reach and the price of defiance. Tess was no mere auctioneer. She was a gatekeeper to a world I was only beginning to understand, and crossing her meant the fight had truly begun. I wiped a bead of sweat from my brow, the neon glow painting my features in shifting hues of electric blue and pink. Somewhere in the data streams, my brother's ghost called to me, and I was coming for him, no matter what it cost. But as the city thrummed around me, I couldn't shake the question burning in my mind. How many more memories like his were lost forever in this neon nightmare? And how far was I willing to go to save them? The game had changed. And so had I. I vanished into the neon-lit maze, the ghost of a promise trailing behind me, a promise to fight, to remember, and to reclaim what the shadows had stolen. The auction block was just the beginning. The clinic was a sanctuary carved out of the city's neon chaos, a muted refuge where the hum of the neural interfaces was the only sound that dared to break the silence. Myra's workspace was a blend of cold technology and human warmth. Translucent screens pulsed softly, casting ghostly light across shelves lined with neural repair tools and memory reconstruction devices. Rin sat stiffly on the edge of a worn leather chair, her eyes fixed on the cascade of images flickering before her on the translucent display. Faces, places, emotions, some vivid, others mere shards of color and shadow, played out in broken sequences, like a shattered mirror trying to piece itself back together. Myra's hands moved with practiced precision, fingers dancing across controls that adjusted the scanning frequencies, coaxing clarity from the corrupted data. "These fragments," Myra said quietly, "they've been tampered with. Portions of the memories have been erased or overwritten. It's not just degradation, someone deliberately damaged them." Rin's breath hitched, the weight of those words sinking deep. She had hoped, desperately hoped, that what she'd found was salvageable, that the memories would reveal her brother's story intact. But the evidence was clear. Some parts of him were gone, stolen, or destroyed in the cruel commerce of the memory black market. "How much is lost?" Rin asked, voice tight with a mix of fear and determination. Myra's gaze was steady, compassionate, yet unflinching. "Too much to recover fully, but some fragments remain stable. We can work with those." Rin leaned forward, the neon glow from the city slipping through the frosted window, casting shifting patterns across her cybernetic enhancements. Each corrupted fragment was a wound, not just in data, but in the very essence of her brother's identity. The memories were more than just files. They were the echoes of a life, the sum of experiences that made him who he was. "Can they be restored?" she pressed. "Partially," Myra answered. "But restoring memories isn't like repairing a broken circuit. It's delicate. Sometimes, trying to fix one part can cause damage elsewhere. We must be cautious." The room seemed to close in around Rin as she grappled with the implications. If the memories were irreparably fractured, what did that mean for the brother she sought? Was she chasing a ghost, a digital shadow of someone who no longer existed? Myra's voice broke through the swirl of doubt. "You have to remember, Rin, identity isn't just memories. It's feeling, connection, the choices you make now." The phrase echoed in Rin's mind as she stared at the flickering images. Then suddenly, a sharp, clear moment broke through, the unmistakable sound of her brother's laugh, bright and untamed, ringing out from the fragmented stream. Her heart clenched, a fierce surge of hope igniting within her. She reached out, fingers trembling, and touched the fragment. It was real, it was him. "We'll keep fighting," she said, voice steadying with resolve. "For every piece that's lost, there's something worth saving." Myra nodded, a faint smile of solidarity. "And you won't be alone." The night outside deepened, neon lights casting long, flickering shadows across the cityscape. Inside the clinic, Amidst the hum of machines and the fragile dance of memory fragments, Rin felt the first stirrings of a renewed purpose. The road ahead was uncertain, strewn with loss and peril, but she would walk it, one fractured memory at a time, until she reclaimed what was left of her brother's soul. But as the digital ghosts whispered in the neon shadows, a chilling truth lingered. Not all memories could be saved, and some secrets were buried too deep for even the brightest hacker to uncover. And yet, in that fragile hope, Rin found the strength to move forward, to fight for the fractured past and the uncertain future. The next step was clear: delve deeper into the Syndicate's secrets, confront the architects of this destruction, and protect the memories that remained. The city's neon veins pulsed with danger and possibility, and Rin was ready to navigate them once more. Because some ghosts refused to fade quietly into the data stream, the hunt was far from over.